Hello my spooky family, welcome back to another video. My name is Rocio with Rocio Jimenez Cosplay, in case you don't know me. And today I'm so excited because we're going to be making a life-size dandelion for Ren Fair. I'm so excited. I came across this video by Sticky Bun Faye on TikTok, and they had a life-size dandelion. And in that video, people were asking if they could make a tutorial. They made a little 45-second, 50-second TikTok tutorial just explaining the basics on what you need to make the dandelion, but they didn't, of course, like go into full-blown detail. There was like a couple pieces that I have to try to figure out myself, but I'm really excited because this year I commissioned someone to make me a mushroom hat. This year I actually got wings made for me as well. So I commissioned someone to make me custom wings. I don't know if the wings will get here on time. I know the mushroom hat will get here on time for fair season, but like towards the end. So I'm excited to add my dandelion. I think I'm gonna add my dandelion to the mushroom look, but it's literally gonna be tall. So for me, tall. So let me go ahead and start with everything that you're going to need first. Once again, this idea was not mine. This idea was Sticky Bun Faye's on TikTok. Definitely make sure to go ahead and check them out. But I wanted to go ahead and do a full tutorial because people kept asking, make a tutorial in their comments. So I want to go ahead and do it myself. The things that they mentioned that you need are PVC pipe, however tall you want the staff to be. So I ended up making mine 65 inches and cutting that in half because that's the perfect height for me. So at 65 inches, it does guide up to like here for me. And then when you add the dandelion is even going to be taller than that. So what I recommend is doing the dandelion above your head so you're not hitting the dandelion pieces on your head when you're walking around with the staff. So the PVC pipes that I bought, you can go to Home Depot and buy one large PVC pipe. They are massive. They're really tall. So I went into Home Depot and I found someone in the plumbing department. I got a slightly thicker one, so there's many different thicknesses. I got a slightly thicker one just so I can go ahead and make sure that it's sturdy enough for everything I'm putting on it. I got it cut by a Home Depot employee to 65 inches, and then I made them cut that in half, which I believe was 32.5 inches. That was for my height. So I recommend measuring your height up to your head. Once you're done measuring up to your head, you're gonna go ahead and stop that. That's gonna be your stopping point. And then any additional sections that you add to it, like connectors, will add to the height as well as the ball that you put on it, and then the dowels. So as long as the dandelion head portion is not gonna hit your head while you're walking, that's what I highly recommend when it comes to the height. They also recommended two 25-pound magnets. I wasn't able to find 25-pound magnets, but I was able to find 60-pound magnets. I don't know if it's like 60 for the pack or if it was 20 per each, because it came with 3 magnets. So it could be 2, 4, 6, where each one is 20 pounds. So the magnets, I did have to kind of go on a hunt for them on Amazon because they look kind of different than a magnet that I haven't seen. In the description / listing, it looked like it was for tools. So like you could literally attach your drill to it or like things like that. So they're very heavy duty. If you read the instructions, it literally says do not put your fingers in between or anything because these magnets can literally slice a finger off. So yeah, be very careful with these magnets. They are very strong. The magnets that I got are 2.64 inches in diameter and they are 0.375 inches thick. They had a 6-inch styrofoam ball, but I ended up finding out that it wasn't 6-inch. It was actually 7.5 inches. I ended up getting mine at Hobby Lobby. It was, I think, about $12 and change with tax. And then you will also need thin wooden dowels. They did mention about 100 of them, so I ended up buying this bag of 100 wooden dowels off of Amazon. I believe they measure in 1/4 inch width, so they are a little thick but not too thick. So definitely recommend those. You're gonna need white yarn, thin yarn, and definitely need enough to make 100 poof balls. You will also need white paint to go ahead and paint your dowels a little bit. I just got this ginormous big bottle of white paint from Hobby Lobby because I use it for other things too, but you could go ahead and just get like a smaller bottle, but you are painting 100 dowels, so maybe get a slightly bigger one. You will also need hot glue, definitely a lot of hot glue, and a hot glue gun. And you will also need green spray paint. I recommend getting the Rust-Oleum green spray paint from Home Depot. The one that I got specifically for color was the Eden, which is closest to like a dandelion type color. It is for wood, metal, plastic, and it says and more, and it is for indoor outdoor. And since you're going to be, you know, using this staff probably outdoors, that's probably the best option. You will also need E6000 glue, which is perfect for metals, woods, and because you are going to be gluing the magnet. I highly recommend getting this one. It's kind of like a super glue. You could use super glue, but they literally used E6000, so that's what I'm going to use specifically. You do want to get Mod Podge. I'm just using a matte Mod Podge bottle that I had at home. I do not recommend using the spray Mod Podge because that's still kind of like spray paint, and that will melt the styrofoam ball if you just spray that on directly. So I highly recommend getting like the actual like gluey type Mod Podge and just spraying that out with your hands or spraying that out with a brush or something like that. You will also need connectors for your PVC. You technically only need one, but this is kind of the instruction part that they did not mention, so I ended up getting 2 PVC connectors from Home Depot as well. They were, I think, a couple cents or $1. I got 2 just in case, and then I ended up getting this really interesting piece at Home Depot as well. I'm not sure what it's called, but this is how it looks like. It is a 2" by 1". It is in that same PVC connector area at Home Depot. I'm planning on using this specifically for the gluing of the magnets. I think it would just be easier to glue the magnets on this because the magnets that I bought in diameter, they're pretty much the same size as the top of this PVC thing, so I could just glue it directly on here, and they'll have like a piece that, you know, I can just take this off and I don't have to worry about taking off the ginormous scary magnet. So I highly recommend getting that. You will also need a pom pom maker. This is how they look like. I ended up getting like a 4 or 6 pack on Amazon, but you need the largest one. This one specifically is the 8.8 centimeter one, so it is the largest one. So your pom poms are nice and big and thick. And lastly, you will notice that PVC does tend to have barcodes on it. You could actually remove that with acetone. So if you want to get some acetone and some cotton balls to remove that to make it more of a matte finish, so you could just spray paint directly on there, feel free. I don't know if I'll do that. I've done that before with other PVC projects, but it is very like toxic smelling while you're removing that. So I highly recommend doing that in a ventilated room or doing that outside. If you can, definitely do it outside. But that is everything that you need besides a paintbrush, because you're gonna need that to paint, you know, your dowels. And I hope I'm not missing anything else. But that is everything that I recommend to make this dandelion. And like I said, that was kind of a mixture of what the original creator recommended and a mixture of what I recommend after analyzing the video a little bit better and analyzing the dandelion a little bit better. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started and make this life-size dandelion.
Now time for the most tedious process of making this dandelion is making 100 pom-poms out of yarn. Yes, I said 100. And just so y'all know, I made 112 because I felt like my dandelion needed more dowels. but I will say you don't have to make them as thick as I did them. I would make them a little bit more lightweight. I did notice that Sticky Bun Faye made hers a little more lightweight after the fact, and I also noticed that the dowels that she used were also a little bit thinner, so those are just some things to note. Because mine was a little bit heavy with these pom-poms and these dowels, but I will say the pom-poms did stay intact when later on my dandelion broke at the Ren Fair. It lasted photos and videos, y'all, but it's gonna be in my vlog. Y'all will see it. I just want to show y'all like how to do the first round. It's super easy. Like I said, I wouldn't make it as thick as mine, but you do unfortunately have to make it 100 by hand. Your hands might get a little bruised, your fingers, by the end of this process, so it did take me a couple of days to make 100 of them. I wouldn't recommend doing them all in one sitting because you will be over it, but let me just go ahead and show you all a little time lapse of how to make the first pom-pom, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, pom-poms have been finished, so now we're gonna go outside, and it's a beautiful day, so I am glad to work on my table out here. We're gonna unwrap our styrofoam ball, take off all of the labels that are on it, and there is quite a bit to do with this ball. We have to be patient, so the first thing is we have to use Mod Podge on it. Why are we using Mod Podge? And it has to be liquid Mod Podge because styrofoam likes to melt, but this is honestly one of the best and lightest things to use to make this, so I am gonna go ahead and apply all of this Mod Podge on this ball nicely and evenly as I can. I'm gonna go ahead and spread it around with this brush first, but then you will notice that the brush was not working out, so I just dropped all of that Mod Podge because I didn't have much left in the bottle all over the ball, and I started rubbing it in with my gloves. I highly do recommend wearing some gloves in this process. Now, I will say that this step is extremely important. You want to not only do the top, you want to do the bottom, the sides, do the entire sphere, because if you don't, the spray paint will melt this ball. So you want to make sure that you just douse it in this stuff. As you can see, I'm just throwing it all on there, so make sure that you're getting every single angle. I do have a plate underneath it. I was impatient, so I did it all in one go, but if I had more time, because I did not have a lot of time, Ren Fair was that weekend, I would have just left it to dry on one side and then done the other side the following day, but I did not have that kind of time. So you're just going to want to douse it all in there, and remember, this Mod Podge is going to seep into the foam itself, like it's going to go down into that styrofoam, so make sure you just rub it in. As you can see, I'm like pushing it all into the fibers, so do that for the entire ball. It's going to be a tedious process, but trust me, this is such an important step. So we're done with the styrofoam ball for now. Go ahead and put it to the side so it can dry while you work on your other pieces. The next pieces that we're going to be working on are all of the connectors. Remember, you only need one of the normal little connectors that I'm showing right now, and you need one of those weird looking pieces. If you look closely at the beginning, there's numbers and stuff to look at them at Home Depot, try to find them. Then you're going to use your green spray paint. I did not decide to do the alcohol portion to remove any of the barcodes or nothing. I honestly, like I said, was very tight on time, so I decided to just go ahead and spray paint these. I put the PVC pipe pieces in between my fingers, and then I just went ahead and I started spray painting. You are supposed to technically spray paint a little bit further, but to be honest, this stuff is going to look like crap probably by the end of using it. It's going to have wear and tear. I can repaint it as time goes on, and these are just connector pieces. They're probably not the most important part of the entire thing, and for the most part my hand will be covering them, so just go ahead and paint them. I do a couple coats on each of them, and on the connector piece I try to paint all of the piece of this piece because in case you could see anything, I will be attaching a magnet, and it will be covered for the majority with the dandelion piece, but I just highly recommend doing a couple coats on each one. So I paint them, and then I'm going to go ahead and put them aside, and then I go back and I paint them again. So just do a couple coats, let them dry in between, just regular spray paint stuff. Now technically you're done here with the PVC pieces. Like I said, you'll probably have to go back and do another coat once they dry, but you don't need to see that again. It's self-explanatory. I did grab my 2 PVC pipes and I'm cleaning them down. So I grabbed a little bit of that, like Windex, window cleaner, whatever you want to use. I would use window cleaner of some sort, and just a paper towel, and I'm cleaning them because the hardware store has them super dirty. They're normally like full of dirt and super gross, and I thank goodness had like 2 little perfect holes on this desk that I could just stick them in. I would highly recommend having something like that you can kind of just balance them off of, because they are gonna need to dry standing up. I have seen people like put string through them and put them in between 2 tables, so they're kind of just in the air drying all night. So that's what I recommend, is doing something like that. So after you wipe them down, we're actually going to get started with the spray painting portion. Like I said, I decided not to remove the barcodes, but you can do that. I felt like with enough coats of this paint, though, you did not have to remove the barcodes. I didn't see any issues with it. So I'm going to go ahead and move these connector pieces first, get them out of the way, let them dry over to the side, and then we're going to go ahead and get started painting the PVC pipes. You're going to go ahead and paint them all the way through. There's nothing different. It's pretty much what you did with the connectors. You're going to go ahead and just spray paint the barcodes as best as you can. So this will definitely need a couple coats. So be patient with it. You will have to go ahead and put it aside to dry and then do the other one and go back and forth until everything is completely covered. I did get a little splotchy in some areas, but no one is really gonna notice, trust me. When they see this giant staff, they're gonna be like, wow, that thing is amazing. So it's okay if this spray paint portion is messy, as long as you get everything covered up. Now PVC pipes are done. Remember, I was super impatient, so do as I say, not as I do. But if you're impatient like me, then do it at your own risk too. So I then grabbed the styrofoam ball that was still a little bit wet. I'm not gonna lie, okay? Still a little bit wet, and I started, as you can tell, the Mod Podge is just there on the table. That's Mod Podge. That is not styrofoam, y'all. So I decided to go ahead and wipe my hands a little bit from that Mod Podge and spray paint, and I started spray painting the styrofoam ball. So that is what we're gonna do next. Remember, the Mod Podge is super, super, super important. I think because I doused it so well that's why the spray paint did not damage the ball. There was some areas that melted it a little bit, but for the most part, I did a pretty good dang job. So I just spray painted this ball as best as I possibly could, and just like you did with the Mod Podge, you're gonna spray paint this entire ball. Try to cover it all. Like I said, do as I say, not as I do, because I will say there was some areas that were more splotchy because they were still wet, so the spray paint didn't really want to hold in those areas. But if you wait for this ball to be completely dry, then you will have a nice seamless spray painted ball. Alright, Spooky Fam, so it's day 2. Yes, it is day 2. I had to be patient for this because your styrofoam ball had to be completely dry for this step. I grabbed my magnet and a Sharpie. I did grab a green Sharpie, and I put the magnet on the middle part of the ball, and I started drawing the magnet shape around. So this is going to be a very, very important step. So go ahead and just grab your Sharpie and do a little bit of line art there with the Sharpie all the way around. You will need a Sharpie and an X-Acto knife. Those are 2 things that I completely forgot to mention that you will need. Like I said, I just kind of made this as I went, and if there was mess ups, then I just continued as I could. So after you have that little like shape drawn there, you could remove the magnet, and you're gonna go ahead and grab your X-Acto knife. So once you grab the X-Acto knife, you're gonna go around and follow that circle that you drew, go all the way around. You could go a little deep with it because you want this magnet to fit in there perfectly. Be very careful. I almost cut myself with the X-Acto knife. You're going to go all the way around, and you're also going to use tiny scissors to try to cut throughout and around it as best as you can. Remember, the styrofoam ball is a little bit hard now because first of all, you Mod Podged it, so that is now sealed inside the fibers, and you also went ahead and spray painted it, so it's a little hard on the outside, but on the inside there is going to still be some fibers that are a little more crumbly and stuff, so this will be a slightly messy process. And this is where I almost cut myself, y'all, so be very careful. I was not kidding. I then grabbed the magnet and I pushed it in that spot. I felt that it needed to be a little deeper, so just go ahead and do that. I then grabbed the little scissors, and then I started going and, you know, snipping in the inside and using the X-Acto together. And then I grabbed the magnet one more time and I pushed it in. So you will see me like pushing the magnet in multiple times to just try to shape it as best as I possibly can. You will see that at the end I do just, you know, push it all the way down because I needed to fit in there perfectly. I made sure that it was flush, so that's your goal with this. Now I do want to give y'all a heads up that the next step that we will be doing here is we're going to be gluing the magnet with the E6000 into this spot, but I highly recommend adding Quick Seal first into that spot and then waiting for that to dry, and then sticking the magnet portion with the E6000 to that, because this is the part that fell off at the rent fair for me. Now, like I stated, I highly recommend adding quick seal onto the styrofoam portion and then doing this step. So now we're going to go ahead and put E6000 glue on the top portion of the magnet. So we're going to put quite a bit on there. I will say this glue likes to just come out super quick. I applied it onto the styrofoam directly, and I did learn that E6000 does like to melt a little bit on styrofoam, which is why I highly recommend adding the quick seal, which you could also get at Home Depot. I then also applied some of that glue on the magnet portion as well, and this glue does actually dry really nicely. It kind of dries like hot glue, like that's kind of how it looks, but it's very stiff and actually stays on, not like hot glue, and it just comes out of the bottle super quickly. So I do highly recommend cleaning it and then putting the bottle back on, because you don't want the bottle to stick to itself. So after that, you're just going to go ahead and push it in to this opening here. Make sure it's nice, flat, and flush. And I'm also going to go ahead and add glue around it. So this is the part that I noticed that it did kind of start melting some of the styrofoam. I did try to put as much as I possibly can in here. And this magnet specifically, like I said, came off at the rent fair. So I think even adding quick seal around that section and then adding some glue would actually help it stay even more too. So those are my recommendations there. So add glue, a bunch of glue on top of that quick seal. A little note for y'all, once you add that magnet has a mind of its own. I did not move it. My table just rolled, because that magnet is super strong. So make sure that you put it in between something, or like hold it while you're trying to close the lid or something, because I kid you not, that magnet has a mind of its own. It's a super strong magnet, and it will stick onto things if you have a bunch of magnetic things around you. So be very careful. I actually just balanced it inside a basket. That's how I left it drying overnight. So that is what I recommend, is putting it in between a basket or something. Now that the styrofoam ball is complete, we're going to glue the other magnet onto the interesting looking PVC connector. As you can see, I'm stacking it in a certain way, and it fit absolutely perfectly. It was just a magical thing that ended up happening. I did not mean to buy this when I went to Home Depot. I found it, and I was like, hopefully it fits the magnet. So we're going to use the E6000 glue. You're going to go ahead and apply it to the bottom portion of this PVC piece. Go ahead and do it all the way around the rim there. As you can see, be very careful, because you don't want to put too much, but you don't want to put too little. And like I said, just squeezing this little bottle, it doesn't even need a much of a squeeze. The glue just comes out, and you're also going to go ahead and apply it onto the magnet itself. We're applying it onto the inside of the magnet instead of the back, like we did in the previous section of the video. So go ahead and apply it all the way around the rim, and make sure that you have a nice glob. You want to make sure that both of the pieces stick on there nicely, and it's on the inside portion of the magnet, where there is that like little groove and opening, not technically on the outside. As you can see, I'm having a lot of issues with that glue just wanting to spill out. I tried to get that tip to be cleaned, and then I tried to put it on the lid so it wouldn't glue onto the lid. So it did take me a little bit. I recommend cleaning that and then going and putting the lid on. So after that portion, we were now ready to go ahead and put the magnet onto the PVC piece. Make sure that you evenly attach them together and try to make sure that they're perfectly where you wanted them to begin with. This part is super important. I will say this does stay on there. That E6000 glue sticks onto that PVC so well, so make sure that you just hold it on for a little bit and just let it dry overnight. I highly recommend leaving it drying for about 24 hours. Alrighty, while that is drying, you're gonna go ahead and start making 100 Pom Pom sticks, and ignore the green part on the dowels. It was something adventurous I tried and was useless and didn't work, so don't even bother doing the green part, just leave it like that. But grab some of your Pom Poms out, grab some of your dowels. At this point it's super late at night, so I'm only doing a couple, and you're gonna need your glue sticks and your hot glue gun, and you're gonna go ahead and grab your pom pom with the longest little strip. you're going to actually glue onto that portion. So where you tied it off, you're going to go ahead and add glue on there, and then you're going to add the dowels. So go ahead and start doing that. This is going to be just a long, tedious process. This is exactly how you're going to glue it right there. You're going to push it down with your fingers. Make sure not to burn your fingers. And you're going to do that with all 100, in my case, 112 of them. Fast forward to day 3, I did not finish as many as you can see because there's a bunch of dowels still left on there, but all of our pieces are now dry. So this is all dry, and I can now hold it. As you can see, like it kind of, that glue goes on clearly. And now I'm going to attach the magnet to the other side. I did keep them separately overnight so they wouldn't accidentally stick to each other. So I'm gonna do the very dangerous process. I'm putting it down. I'm gonna hold this up really high and let it just go by itself. Bang! As you can see, that can literally cut your finger. Remember, that's in the steps. I went ahead and I adjusted it, and there it is. So this is going to be our base for painting and sticking all of our little dandelion pieces on there. So we're going to go ahead and put this down, and we're going to go ahead and grab our dowels that we have already made, and we're going to start sticking them in there. You're going to need your paint now, so grab your paints and paint brushes. I do end up adding brown paint as well, so grab some brown paint as well. Brown paint and white paint. So let's go ahead and get started on that part. Now I started by sticking them onto the styrofoam ball, just go wah, but remember you could still get splinters, so be very careful. I would recommend wearing some gloves. I do eventually put on some gloves to do this portion. You want to actually stick them down pretty deeply, but remember, as soon as you make a hole, like that hole's gonna be there forever, so be very careful with this portion. I do also recommend actually grabbing some Elmer's glue, and you're gonna apply some of the Elmer's glue inside the hole once you make that hole, and you're gonna attach your dowel if you know that that's where you 100% want to put it. Why do I recommend doing this? Because this will make the dowels stay in there even more. This actually prevented them from all coming out when my dandelion fell. And like, I wish I got that on video so y'all could see that, but that I didn't. I will eventually show that in my vlog, though. You will see how intact it stayed. And I just kind of started spreading them around. I feel like I did them a little too close. I would spread them out a little bit more, but remember, you don't want any underneath because you don't want these dowels hitting you in the face. You still want to be able to put it in your car. So that is another thing, is if you don't have a place to store this dandelion year round, you might not want to glue them. Like now I don't have a space to store the dandelion, so I do unfortunately have to take them all out of the styrofoam ball. So that is something to consider. Just the glue will make them stay a little bit better. So once you're done sticking them in, I would only do them in sections. So I got that first little section. I would then go ahead and just put the glue inside the holes of each one and stick the dowels back in there, and you're going to be painting as you go. So I would only stick about 4 straight in a row and then start painting. And this is all stuff that I learned as I was going forward with the project, so I just wanted y'all to know. This is where I ended up getting a splinter, so then I ended up putting on some gloves to continue the process. Now for the painting, this part is definitely optional, but I did it because I felt like it added more to the dandelion. I had my little palette and my white paint that, like I said, I got at Hobby Lobby. I put it on my little palette and I started painting the entire dowel from the very top where the poof ball was all the way to the bottom. Like I said, I do recommend starting this process when you only have about 4. Do them in really small chunks because it does get really hard when you have them all together like this to paint them. So you're going to go ahead around and you're going to paint all of your dowels white. I highly recommend doing it on the styrofoam ball because you are going to be painting around the entire, perimeter, and it does make it a little bit harder if you just have them flat, because then you would have to paint one side and flip it and then paint the other side and flip it and wait for them to dry. This way they could paint all the way around and you could let them dry on the actual styrofoam ball. It did take me a couple of days to actually finish this off. I finished the dandelion actually the night before the fair, so this can be a very tedious process, but like I said, it does add to the aesthetic of it. This part I decided to add last minute. I decided to do brown at the very bottom stems of all of these little dandelion pieces where I'm pointing out, because I noticed that the dandelion pieces, when they rip off of the dandelion ball, they have like this little light brown stem that they connect to the actual ball. So I wanted to actually add that aesthetic on there. I did see someone do a technique where they kind of added cotton balls around that section to make it look fluffy like it's supposed to be. So that's also an idea, and you paint those brown, but this was just a really quick little idea that came up upon my mind. They don't have to be perfect, and I did do this after the white dried, so just carefully apply it. If you do get some of the brown on the actual ball, you could actually mix some green, white, green, and brown to create that like leaf green that you're using with the spray paint on the ball. So don't worry too much, but like I said, that's actually the easy part about doing it in smaller sections, is you're more likely not to get it on the ball as well. So I decided to add this. The painting, like I said, is all optional, but I feel like it really adds to the dandelion. This is where I thought that adding the Elmer's glue would have been a good idea, but like I said, I would recommend doing it in a smaller batch. You're going to go ahead and lift up the dowel because you want to make the hole first, and then you're going to go ahead and just put a bunch of Elmer's glue inside the ball. Just a little heads up, Elmer's glue is very similar to Mod Podge, so this actually helps even more with, fusing those fibers inside the actual dandelion of the styrofoam ball. So just do that with every single dowel. Now at this point, you finished your dandelion, you finished your PVC, everything's dry. You're going to go ahead and stick all the pieces together. As you can see, I put the bottom and one of the connectors in between, and then I put the other PVC and connected both of them to make our dandelion staff. Make sure you push down on it nicely. I do highly recommend taking a mallet with you to go ahead and remove them when you're at the fair and to put them together. After, you're going to go ahead and have someone help you because the dandelion is going to be a little bit tall, a little bit shaky. As you can see, there it is, nice and finished, all beautiful. And you're going to go ahead and attach the other PVC connector to the top. Be very careful. Because like I said, mine did end up breaking. You could do some other techniques so it doesn't happen, but that did not happen until about 4 to 6 hours into the fair. So just be very careful. You are handling a delicate prop. You can't be, super rough with the staff. So after attaching the pieces, make sure that they are nice and screwed. That's what we were doing. But this is pretty much the end of the video. I'm going to show you here the final here in a second, and I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. I tried my very best to show y'all how I did this process. Like I said, this could have improvements. Now let's go into the reveal. So here it is. I had such a blast making this. I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see y'all later, my spooky fam. Definitely tag me if you decide to make this.